Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
More countries agree to subsidize regional airline LIAT. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Monday, July 2nd. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. Grenada and St. Lucia have agreed to subsidize the operations of LIAT despite being fierce critics of the carrier over the years. The revelation came from Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown, but he did not disclose how much the two governments would contribute. He said it was agreed to at the recently concluded 65th meeting of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Authority in St. Lucia. Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Dominica are LIAT's current shareholder governments. But Brown says the idea is to spread the burden and the benefits of LIAT, and Grenada and St. Lucia have signaled that they are willing to come on board to provide some financial subsidy to LIAT. The two islands had previously refused to invest in the airline, saying it would first have to address its inefficiencies. Brown said the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, headed by Dr. Timothy Harris, is still not ready to contribute to LIAT's survival. He added that he hoped the Kittitian leader understood the need for the region to keep LIAT in the air. Brown said he could not see why the OECS and Barbados cannot maintain their own airline. President of the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. Warren Smith, says there is need for serious reform to transform the regional aviation industry. Addressing the recent Aviation Day Caribbean, Dr. Smith noted that such transformation will result in the industry making an even greater contribution to the region's economy. According to him, intra-regional travel is a major deterrent to travel, as in many instances, high taxes have made fares uncompetitive. But Dr. Smith believes that a reduction in these costs could lead to an increase in travel. He also recommended several measures to revamp the aviation industry. These include harmonizing regulation across the Caribbean, adopting and implementing a comprehensive open skies agreement, and strengthening the internal operations of Caribbean Airlines. The International Airline Transport Association also highlighted the importance of air transport to the region's economic development. But Regional Vice President Peter Serda noted that despite the positive performance of the global aviation industry, the profit per passenger in Latin America and the Caribbean is less than half the global average. The leader of Grenada's main opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, has stepped down 3 months after the general election in which the party failed to win a seat for the second time. But Nazim Burke says he was not pressured into resigning. He told delegates at the party's General Council session on Sunday that it was not an easy decision, but one that was reached after much reflection and careful consideration, and was leaving with no regrets, bitterness or resentment. In a speech which focused mainly on the outcome of the March 13th general election, Burke said that while the NDC's inability to win a seat could not be blamed on one factor, the data shows that the party needs to increase its support base. He said, and I quote, "We must have the courage to go back to the drawing board, put all the cards on the table, and carefully and honestly re-evaluate and re-examine how best to deploy them. In so doing, there should be no exception, not even for the position of party leader." End of quote. Burke then announced his resignation as political leader with immediate effect. Deputy Political Leader Joseph Andel has been appointed interim leader until the party holds its convention at a date yet to be announced. And Berg has recommended that convention should not take place before March next year. Barbados has put together a strong negotiating team as the government begins negotiations with the International Monetary Fund on a package to help the country's economy out of the doldrums. The talks will run from Monday to July 12. Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Ryan Strawn, said some of those meetings will focus on debt, not just between the IMF and the government, but also with the domestic and foreign creditors. He explained that government was working out the details of what was required to grow the economy over the next 10 years and the particular path to achieve sustainable growth, whilst at the same time improving the delivery of public services. Strawn said the early meetings will set the framework for where the government wants the overall economic recovery and transformation plan to be. It's anticipated that by July 12, a working agreement between the IMF and Barbados government will be in place. Meanwhile, one CARICOM leader has vowed to take every precaution to ensure his country avoids the current challenges being faced in Barbados. Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Dr. Hubert Minnis, made the announcement on the weekend during a town hall meeting to explain the 12% increase in value-added tax. Effective July 1st, the levy was raised from 7.5% to 19%. Minnis told constituents the increase was necessary at this time to keep the country's debt at manageable levels.
With 12, it meant that we would still have to borrow. However, that borrowing was manageable. By introducing fiscal policies and a better society, we felt that we could manage that, and hence 12%. If you did nothing, left it at 7.5 and borrow, it means that you would have been downgraded, difficulty borrowing, and you have to go to an international agency to borrow. I would never want to see what has happened to Barbados happen to us. Barbados continued to kick the can down the road. They're now about to increase their VAT from 7.5 to 20%. We're not going to kick that can down the road.
Minnis added that the move will also protect the Bahamian economy from being heavily influenced by a foreign entity.
They will determine and tell you how many people you must lay off in the public service. They will tell you that you must lay off 2,000 or 3,000 of your personnel. They will also tell you how many individuals you can hire or whether you can hire any individuals. In other words, your country would be run by an international monetary agency. It'd be run by foreigners. We were not determined to sit down and allow our country to be run by a foreign entity.
Cayman Islands Premier Alden McLaughlin says he plans to seek the support of CARICOM in his country's battle with the United Kingdom over the imposition of public beneficial ownership registries on overseas territories. McLaughlin told the Legislative Assembly that CARICOM Secretary General Erwin LaRocque has agreed to add the matter to the agenda of the Summit of Caribbean Leaders scheduled for the 4th to the 6th of July in Jamaica. In May, the British Parliament amended its sanctions and anti-money laundering bill, making it mandatory for British overseas territories to maintain public registers of beneficial owners of companies registered in their jurisdictions. This amendment has been met with stiff opposition from these countries as their economies are heavily dependent on the financial services sector, which is what the amendment will be targeting.
I believe that a discussion at the caucus level with regard to this issue and the need for clarity in the constitutions of the Caribbean overseas territories will have the dual benefit of deepening the understanding of CARICOM leaders regarding our unique circumstances while increasing our level of engagement as associate members of CARICOM.
McLaughlin is the president of the UK Overseas Territories Association, and he says the letter which he wrote to CARICOM on the matter will be used as the basis for the discussion.
This honorable House are aware, there is strength in numbers. Just as members of this House are united in assuring that the rights of overseas territory citizens are respected and protected, so too can we benefit from the support of CARICOM.
Attorney General Samuel Bulgin will accompany Premier McLaughlin to the CARICOM summit. And still to come in Caribbean Newsline, we'll find out what caused an hours-long standoff between Barbudans and the police. Stay with us. There's more news after the break.
Caribbean's greatest summer line. Yeah, it's country around my time. 44 is me here. I know you love it here. Troops and festivities. We love the Caribbean. The clown night, no time for sleep. Emancipate with we. Back food and folklore. Country around the 44. Back food and folklore. Welcome to our island shore. Back food and folklore. Entertainment to die for. Back food and folklore. Country around the 44.
Welcome back. Over in Trinidad and Tobago, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management and regional corporations were coordinating cleanup exercises, weather permitting, after heavy rainfall over the weekend caused flash flooding in several areas across the country. The showers were the result of a tropical wave passing over the Twin Island Republic. The rains were particularly bad on Sunday. Rivers overflowed their banks, streets were flooded, vehicles were left partially underwater, and some homes were flooded out. Jamaica and Panama have signed a bilateral agreement to strengthen Jamaica's capacity in port management, logistics and aviation. The signing, which signals a strengthening of relations, followed a two-day joint commission meeting in Jamaica. We get more in this report.
The two-year bilateral cooperation will see both countries placing emphasis on human resource training as well as using technology to improve port efficiency. Foreign Affairs State Minister Pernell Charles Jr. says the exchange of technical expertise will generate solutions and activities to support Jamaica's national development priorities.
The decision to cooperate in the development of an air traffic services inter-facility data communication will most certainly put Jamaica in a better position to have timely and reliable exchange of data for the safe conduct of flights. Moreover, the agreement to pursue performance-based search and rescue, as well as radar data sharing, will undoubtedly lead to reduced fuel costs and carbon emissions.
The Jamaica-Panama Joint Commission will meet again in 2020 in Panama to review their progress in executing the agreement.
We are now at a new beginning. We have an instrument of new generation that will structure our bilateral cooperation in a more efficient manner.
And scores of Barbudans were engaged in a 5-hour standoff with police on Sunday over access to the fisheries complex and vowed not to hand over the keys for the building to anyone. The complex has been serving as accommodation for police officers in Barbuda since September last year as the rebuilding of the hurricane-ravaged island continues. But the Barbuda Council has decided that due to the open season for lobster, which began on Sunday, the officers should vacate the building so that fishermen can use the facility for the purpose for which it was built. The United Progressive Party, in a statement, strongly condemned the action taken in by the police and deems it to be intimidatory. The UPP says it stands in solidarity with the council chairman, Wade Burton, in protecting the right of the council to autonomy and decision-making in this instance. The MP for Barbuda, Trevor Walker, says that in order for the fishermen to meet required exploitation standards, they must do so from a sanitized facility approved by the European Union, and the complex is that facility. Walker says without the complex, lobsters cannot be shipped to the EU market, and it would be a huge blow for the island since it is an $8 million industry.
And they told us that they were given instructions to retrieve the keys for the fisheries complex.
The MP said he was informed that the keys were to be handed over to the police, who would in turn hand them over to the Chief Fisheries Officer, Sherilyn Appleton, in Antigua.
So I asked the police, logistically, how is it going to be possible for us to continue to have access to the building if the keys will be taken to Antigua to Miss Upton? And clearly, that would not be doable. So we have said to the police, and I'm going on record as saying that I don't have the keys personally, but we're not handing over any keys to the police.
He explains the reason why this stance has been taken.
It's based on the fact that that is the nucleus of the council operation. Lobster season began today, and that is an $8 million industry that can be jeopardized if Barbuda Council cannot operate from that building in a normal way.
The Barbuda MP said they were told by the police that more officers would be arriving Monday, and if the keys are not retrieved, the officers will lock down the building and secure the area. This, he said, would be a very dangerous thing for Barbuda's economy. A council meeting was planned prior to this incident for Monday, and the Member of Parliament noted that the council will be willing to meet with the police hierarchy, who he was told would be arriving on Monday. Mr. Walker explained that the fisheries complex was designated for the meeting. However, another venue will have to be sought.
And that report is from ABS News. Ahead in Newsline Sport, West Indies prepared to face Bangladesh this week. Stay with us. Sport is next.
Disaster Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Bring in indoor objects such as lawn furniture, toys, garden tools, and anchor objects that cannot be brought inside.
Oh, that's a damn laser! Let's stay focused. Don't change your swing. You're gonna make outs change in swing. That's it again! There you go! All the way!
The world's greatest softball home run hitters start the journey to determine a champion. The Monster Militia Stadium Power Tour is fully engaged and ready to rock.
Barbados, renowned for its pristine beachfront and fantastic weather, continues to leave quite an impression on newcomers to the island and returning visitors. The Caribbean island, quite popular as a vacation hotspot, is not only beautiful due to its natural aesthetics. The island of Barbados continues to grow in popularity because of unique connections developed with our people, our culture. We can't wait to welcome you.
Saying, oh, can't you taste the feeling? Saying, oh, this isn't over. The pressure's on.
perico pim pim. Billetes de 100 en el maletín. Que retumbe el bajo y Valentín, yeah. Aquí prohibida mal.
Regional cricket commentators gave mixed reactions to the recent test between the West Indies and Sri Lanka. Fazir Mohammed and Phil Wallace gave opposing views on how the regional side fared. West Indies faltered in their bid to win the three-test series against Sri Lanka when they ran out of momentum when it mattered most and went down by 4 wickets. TV6's Vinod Nawani spoke with Mohammed and Wallace and filed this report.
After marmalizing Sri Lanka in the opening test by 226 runs at the Queen's Park Oval, the Windies couldn't go for the jugular and instead drew the 3-game series 1-1 following their 4-wicket loss in the day-night match in Barbados. However, based on the Windies' poor results over the years, revered regional cricket analyst Fazir Mohammed is a satisfied man.
Overall, 1-1 is a good result for the West Indies because of Sri Lanka's better performances. They had only lost 1 of 7 test matches coming into this series. And the West Indies, we know about the very poor record, which has us now at number 9 in the test match ranking. But overall, I think the West Indies performed better than would have been expected. There were a number of factors for that. Better pitches, bouncier pitches, grassier pitches, but there are a number of other issues. But overall, I would say that the West Indies performed better than expected with a drawn series.
But former Windies opener Phil Wallace, now turned commentator, says it was a disappointing series with a few positives.
When you look at Windies' performances, you have to take out the individuals like Shannon Gabriel. I talk about wonderfully well, and when you see a guy like him who has been through the a lot in over the years with the injuries and obviously complaints about not being fit, he's really stood up the test of time against Sri Lanka. Jason Holder continues to do well as an all-rounder, but again, his leadership is lacking that killer instinct. Shane Dower is the man of the series. I think he deserved that. He batted wonderfully well in the series to be consistent with his scoring. For me, the series was not what West Indies wanted. We're still back at square one.
Based on that, Wallace doesn't expect the upcoming 2-game test series against Bangladesh to be an easy one for the Caribbean side.
I think we need to be wary, first of all, that the Bangladesh batsmen are fearless now. With the T20 leagues around the world, and the Bangladeshis have been traveling around the world playing a lot of T20 cricket, I find that they're very fearless. They take a lot more chances than when they first come into test cricket, and they're confident.
Mohammed also expects Bangladesh to be very competitive, but gives the Windies the edge against the Tigers from the subcontinent.
And even though Bangladesh have improved considerably in this format of the game, they had test match victories over England and Australia, but both those wins were on their dry, flat, turning pitches in Bangladesh. I think we're going to see more of those green, grassy, bouncy tracks for those 2 remaining test matches. I think Bangladesh are going to struggle, but they will be very competitive. They are an improving team, but I think the West Indies might just hold the advantage in these 2 test matches coming up.
And we apologize for the video quality of that insert. Still talking cricket now, West Indies selectors on Monday named the 13-man squad for the 2-test series against Bangladesh starting in Antigua on Wednesday. The side will be led again by Jason Holder and sees the return of Shimron Hetmyer, who was ruled out of the squad for the recent 3rd test against Sri Lanka in Barbados through illness. The regional side will be playing for an improved test ranking should they beat the Asian side come July 4th. The Windies are currently 9th on the table, and the selection panel said they expect to see a greater effort from the top 5 batters to see them return to the focus and discipline for the upcoming series against Bangladesh. The captain Jason Holder and his teammates already made upward movements in individual rankings. Holder has leapt to a career best 25th spot in the bowling rankings and has climbed 10 spots to 54th, following his top score of 72 in the first innings. Wicketkeeper Shane Dowich, meanwhile, has also enjoyed movement in the batting rankings, leaping 14 spots to 51st position. Opener Craig Brathwaite is the highest-ranked West Indies batsman at 21st, while speedster Shannon Gabriel is the best-ranked Windies bowler at 12th. And although the West Indies are rated lower than Bangladesh in the ICC's test rankings, former wicketkeeper Jeffrey Dujon expects the home side to win the upcoming test series. During a recent interview on The Line and Length show, Dujon said he believes the Windies would emerge victorious in the two-match test series despite the visitors being ranked 8th, one spot ahead of the home side. He said, and I quote, "I didn't think that I would ever say it, but Bangladesh is above us in the test rankings, but it is a series that we should win," end of quote. However, Dujon, who worked as a commentator during the just concluded series between the West Indies and Sri Lanka, said the result of the series would come down to the type of pitches which were prepared. He said it would be in the Windies' best interest if livelier wickets were prepared. While the Jamaican trio of Shericka Jackson, Ronald Levy and Frederick Dacus all copped gold medals at the Paris Diamond League event on Saturday, Johan Blake finished down the pack in the men's 100 meters. The former world champion Blake finished 5th in a time of 10.03 seconds. The race was won by American Ronnie Baker, who registered a personal best time of 9.88, which equals the fastest time in the world this season.
Well, great start there from Vico. Jimmy Vico, third from right. Here comes Ronnie Baker, though. Look at Bing Jian-Su. Su of China and Baker now. Baker, the US champion, forcing himself to the front there and just gets it. Silver medals in the US Championships, but a win here tonight. And the time, 9.88. Well, that equals the world's leading time by Noah Lyles last week in Des Moines. Lyles had a 1.1 win behind him. Tonight, they've had a plus 0.8. And Baker, well, he travels well.
Levy, meanwhile, captured the 110 hurdles at the meet for the second straight year, clocking 13.18 ahead of his compatriot Hansel Parchment, who equaled his fastest time for the season with 13.22.
Well, this time we are away. And, well, Arcana's got a good start. Levy's going as well. Eaton all together. Well, nobody really showing their hand here. Levy maybe just coming away. Parchment maybe gets it on the line. That was very, very close indeed. It was a decent tailwind as well. Levy, the Commonwealth Games champion in 3. But it was very, very tight indeed. I wonder whether Levy just got it between Levy maybe and Parchment, the two Jamaicans. And Levy's been given it, 13.18. Parchment just behind. Well, they're all rather unsatisfactory in the end after the 2 false starts and the remover of Sergei Shabenkov.
Jackson raced to victory in the 200 meters in a personal best time of 22.05 seconds ahead of Jenny of the USA in 22.30 and Mary of the Ivory Coast, who placed 3rd in 22.50. The 23-year-old, who specializes in the 400 meters, has been using the shortest sprint to improve her speed. And Dacus was an easy winner in the discus throw, recording a distance of 67.01 meters. And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Caribbean's greatest summer line. Yeah, it's country around my time. 44 is me here. I know you love it here. Troops and festivities. We love the Caribbean. The all night, no time for sleep. It's massive break with we. Back food and folklore. Country around my 44. Back food and folklore. Welcome to our island shore. Back food and folklore. Entertainment to die for. Back food and folklore. Country around my 44.
It starts from sunrise, a city filled with an island vibe, music, people, color, friendship, culture, and the warmest of smiles. Come enjoy the unique costumes, pulsating steel pans, exotic culture, exciting fetes, and unforgettable people. Discover Antigua's Carnival, the Caribbean's greatest summer festival, July 27th to August 8th, because the beach really is just the beginning.
And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CarnaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and do have yourselves a good night.